The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living and the Ministry of Dr. Moira Foxe presents Living Ideas.
It's a great good day. You never know in this great state of ours what the weather's going to be like. It's just like us, always surprising. So let's center ourselves in the awareness of something that is always the same, always in that beautiful state of being that you and I can go to in any moment, regardless of the weather. So let's take a conscious, connected breath now. How good it is to choose to be present, to choose to be consciously aware, to give oneself a moment of open receptivity, a moment of infinite possibility, a moment wherein any great good thing could be triggered. I'm giving myself that moment now. I'm coming into the awareness of that which is greater than I am. And I'm allowing myself to truly, deeply feel its presence, its palpable, powerful presence within me, around me, about me, above me, below me, embracing me, taking care of me, delighted to be my assistant, delighted to give to me what I so desire of good. A very real and a very present help, always. So I know that that power and that presence simply awaits my availability, my invitation. And I'm providing that now. And I do declare for myself that I am open, I am receptive, I am ready for that beautiful, amazing grace to move through me, my entire being and all of my affairs, and bring a soothing, comforting, healing, warm balm to the entirety of my beingness, so that I can be in comfort and at ease. The states that most make me ready to receive and say yes to my good. So I open myself up and I allow myself the gift of faith. Faith that knows any good thing is possible to me, for me, when I believe that any good thing is possible for me to accomplish, for me to achieve, for me to attract into my life, for me to release out of my life, for me to be open and receptive to any good thing, nothing impossible in spirit. No such thing as big or little, great or small. All depending upon my faith, my mental reach, my emotional receptivity to that good. And that's the only thing I need bring to receive the good that I desire. A faith that's deep, a heart that's open, a mind inviting to receive what already has been given And all I have to do is flesh it out into my experience through saying yes to it, acknowledging it, recognizing it already there. The joy, the power, and the peace of knowing that I am never, ever rejected or given a nay answer. I am always responded to affirmatively. And if I don't have what I so desire of good, it's simply because I haven't offered a consciousness big enough to receive it. Well, I'm holding up that consciousness now, and I am saying yes to the good that I desire, that thing that I most wish to demonstrate now. And in the silent moment, I am one with that good, and I say yes to it. And I give thanks for it. And I assume the feeling of it already in my life. And so I say yes and thank you. And I allow myself the comfort of settling back and settling down now into the awareness of the assumed feeling of the good that I desire. Praising and blessing and thanking and honoring and loving my source for the gift and the givingness. So I know that divine presence is within me. I know that life is on my side, and I know that the universe supports me. And I'm stating and I'm allowing myself to know that all is well, all is very well, because I am connected to my source. And what I'm knowing for myself now, I am knowing for every person on this plane and for every living thing. God, good is, and all is well. I now release this statement of truth, this feeling of truth, into the law, and I let it be so as I say. And so it is. And so indeed it is. So my dear ones, Wednesday, and all is well. We need to have a town crier still, that goes around on the hour, every hour, saying, all is well, all is well, all is very well. I think we need to be reminded of that. There's something to be said for that. When I was in the convent, every hour on the hour, we were supposed to pause for one moment and remember we were always in the presence of God. Apart from the 5 times a day that we were called to prayer in chapel. And it was a good practice. It was a very good practice, to keep reminding ourselves that life is not all about the running around and the getting and spending and the promotions and the achievements and the accomplishments and the projects that we're engaged in. That's just a very small little aside. It really is the small stuff of our lives, Our lives are really meant to be simply being. Our lives are truly not about all the doing. Not at all. It's not about I've got to do more, I've got to do more, I've got, to be, make a good impression on this life and living. I've got to leave a good legacy. And I'm not talking about money or stuff and things. I'm talking about the legacy of goodness and kindness and so on that we can leave behind us by doing more, doing more, doing more. No, it's all about being more. Being more. It's never about what I'm up to. It's about who I am while I'm getting up to it. While I'm in it. Who shows up? And you hear me say this often from time to time, and I keep doing that because I have to remind myself, and in so doing, remind you too, that we are beings and not doings. I'm not a human doing. I'm a human being. And yet look at some of us and you think that's all we are human doings. We are so busy and so stressed out and so scheduled and that we don't have time to be with ourselves, with our close ones, our loved ones, with our friends, with the people in our lives that mean so much to us, or at least we keep telling them that, but we never have time to call them, we never have time to have a cup of coffee with them, we never have time to visit them, we never have time for when they want to visit us and so on. Isn't that interesting? I love it when people make that room in their schedules for that to happen. And I'm a great offender there. I mean, my family hardly know they have a relative over here. They're very good, though. They're a very laid-back family, and they're very understanding. And, my friends complain, too. My friends up in, LA, they'll say, we never see you. You think you were living in Ireland and you're only down in Redondo Beach. So I very often get, told off, as we say, because I don't have the time. And yet, I have the same time as anybody else has. I have the same 24 hours in the day as anybody else has. I guess it's just a question that sometimes we do take it for granted that our friends are going to understand. What's wrong with these people? Don't they know kind of a job I have? Busy life I have? When the ego gets engaged, there's where the ego goes, And yet, we must pause from all the doing so that we can be. And then when we do that, our doing is so much more productive and so much more effective. When we do, after we've understood ourselves to be a human being. We have a great teaching available to us. It's a wonderful thing, and all it is a set of principles. And it's a set of principles that if you apply them, your life will absolutely exponentially improve to the point of transformation. No doubt about that. But you know yourself, a set of principles, intangibles, you can't see them, they're principles. Well, they're very same as a set of tools that you would give, to a friend who loves to, tinker in the garage. He loves his tools and all of that. Or a lady for that matter. I know some ladies that like to tinker in the garage with the set of tools. And also, you give a set of some sort of equipment to somebody who's interested in whatever they're interested, whether it's the gym or, sports, whatever, painting, some art that they're all caught up in. And you give them tools as gifts. And very often those tools lie there, pristine, in their state, in the boxes, in the containers, and so on. In fact, I knew a friend had such a beautiful set of tools in the garage. They were so beautiful, he couldn't use them. He was still using all the old ones, but they were too just bright and shiny and lovely. So why don't you set them up on the wall like a little altar to them and just, bow before them when you pass by. You see, what good are tools if you don't use tools? What good are they? What good are the paintbrushes that lie there? What good is the gym equipment? How many times have any of us bought ourselves gym equipment? Especially if the ladies, if you go into Ross and if you go into, TJ Maxx and all of that, and you go to that section where they have all that lovely workout stuff, and it's half the price you'd pay anywhere else. Oh gosh, that's great. It's a great price. Must buy that and do that now. Take it home, and there it is, still in its box, and you've forgotten all about it, and you trip up over it, a year later. You say, oh yeah, I forgot I had that. Must use it. And it never happens. And then eventually it ends up going to the Goodwill. Tools are to be used. That's how we appreciate tools. And that's how we benefit from tools. We use them. Well, spiritual principles, spiritual tools are the very same. There's no use getting them and putting them in your toolkit and forgetting about them. You've got to apply them. You must apply them. And of course, your spiritual toolkit for these kinds of tools is your mind. A toolkit of your mind. And you just cannot let them lie there unused, unvisited, growing spiritual dust. If there is such a thing, I doubt it. And if there is spiritual dust, it's stardust. It's stardust. What are the rules? What's the basic fundamental rule in our spiritual philosophy? If you think it, it is so. If you feel it, it is so. It is done unto you as you believe. Your thought is an act of creation. You are a creative force in the universe. You create, or I should say you co-create, because only the creator creates. But you come into cooperation with your creative process, which is to co-create. And you do that through every thought that you think and every feeling that backs up the thought that you think. That's how you create. So this Wednesday morning, we're asking ourselves, what did I decide to create today? What did I decide to create today? And some of you are sitting there saying, well, I didn't ask the question at all. Never occurred to me to do that. But if you do that, you see, you're getting mindful, you're getting consciousness, you're ready to set an intention, you're making a choice, you're taking charge, you're taking control, you're deciding who you are in the day, how you're going to be in the day, and what the day is going to be like. And you are going to establish how it's going to be no matter what. Because you're using the tools and the spiritual kit in your mind. What am I going to choose today? Who do I decide to show up as today? What quality will I hone in on today? And stick to the program. Take one quality and only one quality because you want to set yourself up for success. Too many things, too many choices, and you'll be all over the place with it. And you won't succeed at any one thing very well. One thing. Who am I today? Miss World Peace today. Miss Unconditional Love today. Miss Powerful Patience today. Whatever it is, choose one thing and stay with it. And sometimes it might be through gritted teeth. I am Miss Powerful Patience today. I will not lose my patience today. I made my decision this morning and I'm going to stick to it regardless of this standing in front of me. I will be patient. Sometimes it's like that because the ego is very powerful and the ego is a commando. Wants to be in charge, wants to be in control. The ego is very quick to defend and attack and to guard, be on guard. bit uptight, the ego is. And so because we are used to allowing our ego to have its way with us, mostly, at least 51% of the time, it's always a challenge. Once you make your choice in the morning to be your spiritual self, to be the great part of yourself, the best part of yourself, the ego is going to say, we'll see about that. Bring it on. And it's a terrible dichotomy sometimes. It really is a dichotomy. So it's a pull. You want to, because that's what you're experiencing, and you want to give it back. And yet, that intuitive, poised wisdom and intelligence within you is pulling you back from that and saying, no, don't go there. No, that's to play small. Stop playing small. Be larger than that. Be bigger than that. The greatest battlefield of all is the battlefield of the mind. And that's what creates other battlefields in the exterior world. There's no greater place to do battle than in your mind until you realize that doesn't have to be. Where does it all take place? In the war room of your mind. And don't think you haven't got one. Those of us sitting there very composed and peaceful thinking, no, that's not me. What's available to one person is available to all persons. And that works on the negative side of life as well as the positive side of life. There is a war room in your mind. Not anything to do with the truth of your being or the creator of your being. It has to do with the human element of illusion that we engage in when we come here. And so every single negative thing is a human construct and has nothing to do with the divine. Nothing. All evil, all of that is a human construct based on the darkness of ignorance and unconsciousness. When we're unconscious, we're ignorant. And ignorant is what causes us to do terrible things. But before we do any terrible thing, we have to think it. And that's why it is written, he neither slumbers nor sleeps who guards Israel. And we're not talking about people here. We're talking about your powerful, intelligent intuition that's always awake, always standing guard, always available to you to call upon in all times, especially in difficult, challenging times, to guard you and keep you safe. Number one, from yourself, your ego self, your small self. But see, we're not used to inviting that kind of help. We need to get into the practice of it, the habit of it. When things get difficult, when things get challenging, when I'm upset in any way for any reason, to go to that state within myself that I know is intuitively intelligent and has the answers for all of what's going on, and the ability to help me through all that's going on. How many times during the day do you remember that you have an intuitive intelligence within you, available to you, to help you? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to stop and then do a big prayer treatment, a big long prayer treatment so that you can get with the program. I mean, when we're out there in the marketplace, there's not always that kind of opportunity to do that. There is nothing wrong with help in a situation like that. Because something is always listening to you. Always listening to you. Wanting to give to you what you're thinking into it. Scary. That's something listening to you all of the time that has total attention on you. Total. Listening into your every thought and every feeling. Wanting to give it to you. Will give it to you. Regardless of what it is you're thinking and feeling. Because that power and that awesomeness doesn't know the difference between a joke, a lie, and the truth that you might be thinking or feeling. It's going to give you the joke, the truth, or the lie. Because that's what it thinks you want. And it will never fail you. It will respond to you immediately, all of the time, forever and a day. You know that, I know that. God help us, look at us, people here in this room who know this, and yet our thoughts are all over the place. Is there any chance for the people out there who don't know this? When we who know it find it so challenging to work with it. So the law of life, which is the law of consciousness, the law of mind and action, all the time is saying, work with me, people. Work with me, people. We have to use these terms, human terms, to kind of understand what's going on, if you know what I mean. And yet, if you work with the law, according to the law's tendencies and nature, bliss is the result. Regardless of circumstances and conditions and challenges and situations, bliss is the result. No matter what's going on, you're fine, you're okay. Because you know, I'm all right. Everything's okay. This too is passing. And I'll come through it the better for having gone through it. And more than that, there's a good in here for me somewhere. And I'm going to have it. I'm open to it. I'm excited about it. There's a good in here somewhere, and I am supposed to have it. And by Jiminy Crickets, I'm going to. I'm going to. It's all the way you perceive everything is perception, perception, perception. Life is nothing more than perception, and you know that. Look at one family and how their perceptions in that family are so different. Talk to children in a family, and they'll tell you different experiences about how their mother was, how their father was, what their siblings were like, and so on. It's like there's 5 kids out of 5 different families. And the siblings will say to each other, well, how could you get that out of that? That's not the father I knew. That's not the mother I know. How come that's the way you think of it? Well, that's my experience. Perception. And oh my. Kind of touched on this a little bit in class last night. People come to you and they tell you stories about this, that, and the other. And you believe them. And you get upset. And then you go and fight with the one that was supposedly the one that said this, that, or the other. And it wasn't that way at all. It's that person's perception. Their sense and sensibility brought to that situation that interpreted it that way. Lost in translation. That's a movie. Has anybody ever seen it? Strange movie, interesting. But we lose so much in translation. We're doing this at the moment. We're studying. We have the Abrahamic religions coming together to study, mainly the Christian and the Islamic religion. And a lot of what we talk about are the translations, and how much depends upon correct translation from any book, any scripture, or secular book or otherwise. That when you're taking something from one language and putting it into another, it doesn't matter how well you do it, something's lost in the translation. Please remember that when people are telling you stories, that it's their perspective on it. So you listen and you say thank you for sharing, and that's it. And then you sort it out yourself. And it doesn't matter who's standing in front of you telling you the story. You have to get it, as your mother and my mother used to say, from the horse's mouth, before you can even draw any conclusion yourself about it. And then even the horse has its own perception. Your thinking is your thinking, and nobody else's. Nobody else's. Now, that's about people coming to you and telling you stuff. Well, if it's true of that, it's also true of you going to somebody else and telling somebody else stuff. Don't. Because you don't know what you're talking about. You're clueless. How do I know that? Because you don't even know what's going on in yourself, or less somebody else. And you tell yourself stories about yourself. If you're going to tell yourself stories about yourself that are not true, you're certainly going to tell them to other people that are not true. Look at all the things you've thought about yourself that are really not so. All those nightmarish things that go on in your mind, horror stories. The bad press you give yourself. And I can assure you, if you are giving yourself bad press at any time, you're out there giving bad press about other people too. Because that's all you have to give. You can only give who and what you are yourself. Gossip. There's not one holy book that doesn't speak searingly of gossip and its dangers and its maliciousness. I can remember when we were preparing for First Holy Communion, 7-year-olds. And we had to prepare for our first confession too, so you had to make sure you told all your sins and be sure that you knew all your sins to tell them, just to cover everything. Because otherwise, if you received Holy Communion, you'd be in the state of sin, and then you'd be adding another sin to your already state of sinfulness, and then the chain goes on and on and on until you get to the point you say, well, what's the point? I am so doomed and bound for hell now. What's the point of even trying? Hellbound at 7 years of age. So we were told, about maliciousness of gossip and all of that, and taking somebody's good name away from them. And I remember good Sister Etna saying, to try and make amends for taking somebody's good name away would be like getting a huge bag of feathers, a pillowcase full of feathers, going up on top of a mountain, shaking the feathers all over from the top of the mountain, and then to go try and find every single one of those feathers again and put it back in the pillowcase. That's how impossible it would be to be able to get the good name back for a person you've taken it from. That was very impactful for us as a 7-year-old. You could see us all cringing as the story went on and on and on. So that was, the good sisters trying to start us off at an early age to release the bad habit of talking about others. Not in a nice fashion. Did it work? Of course it didn't. It just made us more fearful of going to hell, that's all. But it did have an impact. And it worked somewhat, if not completely. and at least gave us a conscience about what we're doing when we've done it, and so on. But think about it from your own perspective. What does it take us back to? It takes us back to the golden rule that every religion has embraced. Every single religion has embraced the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Or another way, don't do to others what you wouldn't want anybody to do to you. And we always come back to that, don't we? We always come back to the golden rule. Take care of others the same way as you would like others to take care of you. You know. It's like the last time I was talking to a group of parents, and they're talking about their children and their children and their children, and they're trying to instill in their children these wonderful qualities and so on, and how difficult it is in this day and age, and what to do. And my response always is, whatever it is with regard to the qualities you want to instill in your children, the best way to do that is by instilling them first within yourself. Because you cannot ask of a child what you yourself are not willing to be. That doesn't work, and we all know that. Children see through things more quickly than the rest of us. They're as clear as a bell. But you do it, Mommy. You do it, Daddy. So all of this is about who am I any given day of the week. It's not about what I'm going to become, my nice idea of myself when I grow up and, mature and have taken all the classes and read all the books and been exposed to all whatever. I'll be good then. It's like St. Augustine, his favorite prayer was, Lord, make me a good man. But not today. Wait until tomorrow. So who I am in the moment is what's always important and nothing else. And it doesn't matter how wonderfully good I've been yesterday or the life before that's gone before or who I imagine myself to be tomorrow. It matters now who I am right here and right now. That's all that matters. And right here and right now, in this moment, I can move into an awareness of myself as my great self, as my best self, even if I have lived a dreadfully bad life up until this moment. I can do it right now. I can step out of all of that and call myself blessed and call myself good and call myself at one with the truth of my being. This moment, right now, I can do that regardless of what is behind me. And guess what? I can only do it now in this moment. I can't proclaim it for myself for the future. Because here's where my power is. Here's where my intelligence is. Here's where my infinite possibility is. Here, this moment, right now. It's awesome. You should feel yourself tingling with possibility. Tingling with possibility. Possibility is always dancing around us and within us, saying, partner me, partner me, partner me. Come off the sidelines, come out onto the dance floor and partner me. Partner me. There's a new book out called Daring Greatly. It's a phrase that Eleanor Roosevelt stated some time back. Daring greatly. And it has to do with vulnerability and how people have no clue what the word means. People associate vulnerability with weakness. It's nothing to do with weakness. Vulnerability is a strength, it's a power, it's an ability in this day and age of terrible criticism and cynicism, to get out on that playing field and play to the point of injury, while the critics sit and denounce you for the terrible, awful way you're playing on the benches, on the sidelines. That's vulnerability. You getting out there into the game, engaging and playing anyhow. Don't you find that in life? That the people who have the most to say about what is not right are the ones who sit on the benches and don't play the game? I used to have a terrible thought for 2 minutes when I was in the convent. You have to understand, convent life is a whole different thing. It's kind of like being in boot camp when you're young and in it in the beginning. And so it's not what it appears to be. And so, of course, we did a whole lot of domestic chores, of course. And it didn't matter how you cleaned the fireplace, it was never right. It didn't matter how you scrubbed the floor, it was never right. It didn't matter how you polished the brass, it never was right. It didn't matter how you darned something, we had to do a lot of darning. Nobody even knows what darning is anymore. If you had a hole in your sock, you darned it, you know. Not everybody's good with a needle. And so on and so forth. And I remember thinking, very young in the convent at the time, you know, it's all very fine for you folks to sit around and criticize everything we're doing when you're doing nothing yourself. Oh yes, Maria was not an asset to the Abbey. That was just a little thought here and there, but it gave me fodder for confession. You know, you always had something to talk about. And I hated every single confession I ever made. Hated every single one from the time I was 7 until the last one I was at. Hated them all. They didn't just make sense to me at all. I don't know about any of you have ever had any experience of a confessional. But when you're a small 7-year-old and this big door opens up and you find yourself kind of too small to be able to fit in a way that you can actually reach high enough to get to the little window that opens up, and you might see an ear, and that's about all you're going to see. They're dark, they're fusty, they're musty, and there's murmuring going on when you go in, because the priest is with the person on the other side. And then all of a sudden you hear click, the thing opens. God bless you, my child, now tell me your sins. So, bless me, Father, for I have sinned so east, my last confession, Father, I told lies, was disobedient, didn't say my morning and night prayers, I stole cookies out of the jar, blah, blah, blah. And you said everything that was on the list just in case you missed anything, even whether you sinned or not. You just told them all because it was the list. And then the priest would say, okay, now say 3 Hail Marys and an Our Father for your penance, now make a good act of contrition. Oh my God, I'm heartily sorry. Shh! Before you were even finished, the thing was closed and it was on to Harry Cullen in the other side of the box, you know. And Harry Cullen's sins, everybody heard because he screamed them out. I know his mother never had a cookie in the cookie jar, that's for sure. And so it went on, and it never made much sense to me, but I hated every single one of them because, you know, I know there was a lot of withholding went on when people went into confessionals. I know I'm off track now, but it's very, you know, I had a friend, a young friend, she was in her 20s, and she was in a relationship with somebody she shouldn't have been in a relationship, and I'd say, and she was very devout in her devotion. I would never miss going to church on Sundays and said her rosary and all that. So I said, you know what, I said, Phil, do you ever discuss this with the priest when you go into confession? Oh, no. Why would I tell that poor man something about this that he knows nothing about? I'm not going to trouble him. What would he me know about all of that? I said, oh, okay. Don't we have interesting perspectives on things? She didn't want to trouble the poor man, upset him. Anything to do with all of that. My dear ones, you are sitting in this room today, and you have an opportunity to leave this room today thinking differently when you came into this room. There's such an awesome power within you. I couldn't even begin to describe it. I couldn't even begin to suggest to you what good it can bring to you if you allow it to bring it through you. You have it now. There's nothing for you to become in order to get it. You have it now. In its full magnificence and glory, it's with you now. And you didn't have to deserve it. You don't deserve it. Neither do I. No one does. You're entitled to it. You were made entitled to it. It's yours by entitlement. You can choose to use it or not for your good and the good of all else besides, as the case may be. But you have to recognize it. You have to identify with it. You have to allow yourself to be open enough to think it until you can feel it. And once you feel it, you're home free. There's no denying a feeling. And it's with you now. Now you are the sons and daughters of God, the scriptures say. Now you can be the glory of God fully alive. Fully alive. Fully alive. I'm offering you the invitation on behalf of Spirit now to make the decision to be fully alive. I'm going to let you pause for a moment of quiet now and decide if you're going to make that decision or not, and what your perspective for the rest of the day is going to be, and who you are choosing to be from this moment on in this day. And knowing tomorrow you'll make the same decision. So let's breathe deeply, close our eyes, and be open to all of that invitation. So I choose to be my best self now. And I open myself up to divine counsel, guidance, grace. And I say yes to the best of me, the truth of me, knowing I'm not alone as I endeavor to be all that I can be. The power, the presence of the life that chose me, the life that lives in and through me, is my very real and present help. And always and ever to it the beloved presence be the glory in me, through me, by means of me, and as me, and all of creation too. I release this awareness into truth. I proclaim now that it is so, as I say, and so it is. And there we are, my dear ones. We are ready and good to go. Any questions? No questions. My goodness, isn't that wonderful? We don't have any questions. We know, and we're ready to go and move upon what we know. And as we go out there into the world, remember, the world is waiting for you, can't wait for you. And you out there will make the difference. And you only just have to be yourself, nothing else. You're beautiful, bright, shining, smiley, happy selves. Remember, a smile is only a frown upside down. So next time you find yourself frowning, turn it upside down. And isn't it lovely? You can do that without standing on your head, because some of us would be challenged in that regard. Get yourselves out there and splash your light all over the place. See you next time in the sanctuary. Thank you for being here. Love you all.